All right, this video, real quick, is also for my daughter, for nobody else really. It's just to document some of the jobs I've done and keep them on file so they don't get lost and thrown away like everything else that I've had. This job itself was up in LaConner. It was a historical building that started to sag. It was tidal, so it means a portion of the building was fixed by the Corps of Engineers, and then the street side, where the street is, was tidal about 4 or 5 feet. So the pilings was actually built on piles, and just the ends of the 12 bys rotted. So it sagged about a foot on the street side. So I had to tear everything up, find out what was wrong with it, and that was kind of the deal. Was so once I figured out that it was just sagging, we had to replace the caps and pick up the whole side of the building. So I just sandwiched the studs with 2x12, and then got some cribbing. And the foundation wall, there was no concrete at all; it was all rock. So I actually poured that in eventually. This is just some quick photos initially of trying to get find out what was going on with that thing. And the square footage, I don't really remember, but there was like 2 load-bearing walls, and so this is the main room, and then there's like 4 other rooms. I had to go through 2 load-bearing walls, which um, I couldn't tear down. So I had to basically jack everything up, and so that's kind of the process here. And that's, I think, when I started jacking, that was the corner of some trim. I lost about a half an inch. I think it was about an inch. Started shifting. I was really worried about cracking the sheetrock and everything like that, or causing more damage. But um, it didn't really cause all that much damage. I couldn't believe it. We pulled all the windows out, obviously, so they wouldn't shatter. Let's see. This is from the outside. I'm looking down. I had this big, I think it was a glulam beam I had to put in there eventually. There's crew. This was pretty tricky, lots of little tricks. Nobody wanted to take this job on. They had about 4 or 5 it took them 2 years to find somebody to take on this job. No contractor would do it. I had access to a certain engineer. I'm not going to give any names of companies or whatever, or where this is actually at, but it was a challenging gig, to say the least. Everything was treated, and I put everything in there. Then we actually used Healy anchors to. It was all built on old fir logs and cribbing, and it was pretty amazing. The thing lasted. I think it was built in like 1901 or something like that. So a long, long time ago. And these are all the new 4 bys I was cutting in on these corners. Trying to go under the entryway without damaging the historical value of the outside of, they wanted to keep everything, so we had to kind of pick and choose what we demoed out, just the worst stuff here. I used every jack I could find. I bought, like, these are 50-ton jacks, and then I used a bunch of bottle jacks and just regular car jack. Any shit, I had so many jacks, it's crazy. So this is that first room, and everything went pretty good. I brought it up actually within original grade, within like a half an inch. I was plus or minus 1 inch throughout the whole building, and I was transitioning through load-bearing walls and trying to bring it down, because over the years they just kept adding more and more like decking and stuff like that. They actually poured like a little. This is we were putting in the Healy anchors, driving them down to support the 12 bys. And there's the one load-bearing wall, which I had to leave in place. I couldn't take a lot of that out of there. Let's see here. yeah, there's the bracket and one of the Healy anchors installed. Little sonotubes. That's the outboard little fascia board. I had to build that by hand to try to mimic from what was original in the building itself, and I tried to do the best I could. I'm not a great carpenter, like a journeyman or nothing. I'm more of a pile buck, bigger stuff, but I did the best I could. This was just the first room. This is putting on the 2x subfloor, and then we get to the 1 1/8" plywood, tongue and groove, by the way, which I laid all this by myself. Nobody helped. That's pretty much, I humped in all the 4x, 12x. I had to put the 12x in first and then float them when the water came up, when it was tidal. I did most of this work at night by myself when the crew was actually back at the house we were renting. This is one floor they did. To get it up, they just poured some kind of concrete about 3 inches thick on top of some old, whatever it was. I had to demo all that out of there. And this is the last room we got into, which was a bunch of mites got in there and rotted shit. Everything was eaten, and I had to rip all that fucking stuff out of there. I can't believe this thing was even standing, to be honest with you. So I had to pull all that down, set new 12x, drive the Healy anchors where we could get them in at. I did a lot more work than what was asked and what I should have done from what the engineer said, but I had a pretty good relationship with the owner, and I wanted to do a really good job for her. It was a family-owned building, so I wanted to make sure that it was done right, or as best as I could do anyway. I was pretty proud of how it turned out, with the amount of damage. Here's that last little room. And then when I finally got everything ripped out of there to the street, there's the tide coming in, we had to maintain and keep all of our debris out of there. And here's me getting all those old, all the new 12x in there. It's the side of the wall. This is on the east side of the wall. That was bearing. Here's that tying in that corner, and I'm slowly getting all the 12x back into place, cutting in to grade, floor grade, all the 4x. Here's one of the final pictures. Real proud of that picture, all the blocking and everything. And this is actually a load-bearing wall, which I had to transfer all that load to cribbing underneath it through jacks, and oh my God, without causing any kind of damage. So getting all the flooring in, final flooring. Entryway, had a problem with the door, because the door wasn't square and it wouldn't close, so we had to fix all that, and then put some shims in for the flooring for the other side of the building, which on the pier. And all in all, it came out really well. Everybody was happy. Everybody made money. This is a different job. I'm just going to keep going and see what was on here. But this is up at a processing plant up in Alaska. And I had to, when I transferred these are all bearing. I mean, everything I had to cut out and replace. I had to blow holes in the floor pan and use chain hoist to go over live electrical and plumbing, and sometimes go over the top of it, and only traveling about 2 inches at a time, trying to get these things in there. And that's a different job, but that's up in Alaska. Blowing a hole in the floor pan so we can rig. Piling, we had to demo out because they were tipping over, because these are old repair piling called the bag form. The annulus on those is like 8 inches around to 10 inches of solid concrete, so they were just falling over because they were sinking into the bottom, so we chipped them all out. And then came back in and put a fiberglass form on them and down into the bottom, so they were actually bearing. We used wire cage or rebar sometimes. I had to put posts and beam around areas we were demoing out. So this is all, instead of taking it back out, I just left it permanent, because we were, one area was about 30,000 pounds, the compressor room. And then that's a different gig. That's a Tacoma. And anyway, that's kind of all for this video. It's kind of the same stuff here. That's a different job. I think that was Banger sub base. There's a little easy dock I put a frame on, a little davit for a crane, so to weld on some anodes. And that's would be that.